bear market sucks, but everyone is telling you right now is the time to start buying. You buy when things are down, and as we know, the whole crypto market is down. So what do? You go to CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko and you start looking for tokens that are down. Maybe you go to your favorite tokens, but there's thousands of them. So how do you know which one is going to perform the best next cycle? How do you know where to position your money? Should you just throw $100 at every token on the list, or should you try to focus your money on certain projects? Should it be in the top 10? Should it be in the last few hundred? Knowing where to position yourself is going to be absolutely key to make sure you take advantage of the next market, but it is definitely daunting. It's hard to really realize where you should go. There's a lot of different opinions out there. If you're on crypto Twitter, everybody preaches their own tokens. What I'm going to try to do in this video is narrow it down for you guys, because believe it or not, it is quite a bit simpler than you think. So you're going to want to stick around to the end. I'm going to go over my predictions. Before we get into it, I just want to say, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. I am working to take this channel to the very top of crypto YouTube. I want to be your honest place where you can come to for crypto information. So I would love it if you guys join me on that journey. Okay, so I have been in the crypto space since 2016. I went through the whole 2018 bear market, which was absolutely brutal. It's a lot like what we're seeing right now. And I made a lot of mistakes my first cycle. I did a lot of jumping around to different projects and trying to trade and be almost too active, when really the answer is a lot simpler than being active. It's just being in the right position. And the right position is actually more obvious than many people realize. They think you have to go through some crazy, research data to find the token that'll blow up. And don't get me wrong, there is a lot of chance in this, and research definitely does help, but it's more obvious than you think, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that in a second here. So in 2018, when the bear market started, everything, just like it is now, went down pretty hard. You're going to step down, but ultimately, as long as you bought somewhere in the massive dip of 2018, you would have turned around and made your money back in significantly more this cycle if it was on good projects that produce returns. Your Ethereums, your Bitcoins, your really anything. You could have chosen just about any token, minus the ones that were absolute turds, and made money as long as you just bought and held through that dip. But the ones that really made a ton of money this cycle were the ones that were setting up last cycle, that sort of saw somewhat of a pump, but really didn't reach their full potential, or maybe the project wasn't fully developed yet, and they really took hold this cycle. So how do we use that information to position ourselves for next cycle? Well, we got to take a look at how last cycle went. We got to do sort of a recap of the last cycle. So as we know, it all sort of started with COVID. COVID came, it crashed, and then from that COVID crash, it was pretty much up from there. Now, that COVID crash was serious. Everything went super, super cheap. And it was really fast, so most people didn't catch it on that very rapid dip. But if you bought anywhere along the lines in that 2019 time frame, you would have been just fine come 2020. Or excuse me, that 2020 time frame, you would have been just fine come 2021, when everything really started to cycle around. Now, last cycle, we saw lots of focus on alternate L1. So Ethereum sort of, improved platforms, smart contract platforms, your Solanas, your AVAX, all of these, your Cosmoses, your Nears, all of these had massive token appreciation over the last cycle. And with that, lots of funding was brought to these alt L1s. What you saw was a lot of token teams start working on Solana, start working on AVAX, and transitioning away from Ethereum. So what are we going to do with this knowledge? Well, first and foremost, it's important to pay attention to what teams are still building now. A lot of those teams maybe they saw Solana blow up in price, and so they just tried to hurry up and make something so they could capitalize on that money inflow to Solana. Those are the ones you want to avoid, right? The ones that were just there to make a quick buck and they have no true product right now, or they ran out of money and they're no longer building. Those are the ones that we want to steer clear of. What we want to look for are the ones where they are building still, even through the bear market. They have good funding, and they're just nose to the grindstone getting it done. Those are the projects you want to follow. How do you follow them? Well, it's pretty simple, really. You just want to be in touch with socials and listening to what projects people are talking about, and then following up with the project team and the product, just going and checking out their Discord and seeing what they have going on. A great example of this is Avalanche. So Avalanche is a gaming, is a game DeFi sort of mix that has been building on Polygon, and they have just been absolutely staying true to their mission even through the bull market. They didn't change course. They haven't really done anything to, try to push their token price higher or anything like that. They are out there truly trying to build a solid game, and they have plenty of funding, a good team. They keep everybody up to date. So if you go and you follow Avalanche in their Discord, you'll be able to stay updated on what they've got going on. They even have their live website. So you can go to their website and you can check out the game and how far along it has come. Good projects, you'll be able to do things like that. Be skeptical of the ones that are promising the world but don't have anything to show, right? You want to be careful of the ones that are saying that they're going to build a massive game and it's going to be the next best thing since Call of Duty, but there's no product, right? There's nothing for you to sample. So you want to maybe keep an eye on those projects, but I wouldn't go ahead and throw my money right in there. Now, this isn't investment advice, and I'm not endorsing any of these projects. I'm giving you guys examples of what to look for. So we need to reference last cycle and find out how we ended. Again, Alt L1s were a big piece of last cycle. They did very well, and with that came the birth of their ecosystems. Now, some common theme across the board last cycle was gaming. Gaming got a sort of its own little bull run towards the end of the cycle. And there was some projects that did phenomenally well. Don't get me wrong. They did like crazy 100Xs and some more. But for the most part, a lot of the gaming projects that were being hyped up didn't have finished products yet, right? Like a lot of them were still just in their alpha or beta, and there was just a little bit you could do, but maybe not a full game, or it was just a platform. But again, nothing really to do on it. So what I am predicting is that these games will likely be completed or near completion next cycle. And with that, it's going to bring on the crypto natives as well as the, I guess, normies, because I can't think of a better word to say it, but your non-crypto natives into the space. What easier way to do that than video games, right? Video games are already hugely popular. And if you can connect video games with crypto, you have an amazing on-ramp that many people will choose to use and get involved in the crypto space. And this is a way that the door is going to open into the crypto space for lots of people. NFTs already did this last cycle. If you look, and NFTs were amazing. You had lots and lots of people who would have never even thought about getting into crypto, getting involved in crypto because of NFTs. They started with NFTs, and from there, it just sort of grew. It's sort of the gateway to the rest of the crypto space, and I very much picture crypto gaming to be this way. So I would pay very much attention to the developers out there who are making good games that are projected to be finished by the time we get to next cycle. Now, obviously, we don't know exactly when next cycle is going to start, but keeping tabs on these teams and who is releasing what when and keeping an eye on the games that they're playing, it's really a lot easier than following DeFi or things like that, because there's not as many calculations, right? You just got to look at the game and you got to say, this game is good, and does the token have a purpose in the game, right? Is there a marketplace for this token? For example, going back to Avalanche, Avalanche has the Ghost token. What is the purpose of the ghost token? Well, the ghost token in their game allows you to buy merchandise on the marketplace for their game. So I don't mean merch that you wear, I mean for your character in the game, right? You can buy clothing for your ghost, your Avagachi, you can buy new Avagachis, you can buy land parcels. There's all these different ways that you can use the ghost token. You can stake it, and these all give value to the ghost token. So these are the kind of dynamics that you want to pay attention to in the gaming space, because the game can be really good, but if the token doesn't serve a purpose in the space, then the token probably won't perform that well. It needs to have a purpose. Another thing you want to watch is making sure that there aren't token unlocks coming when you're about to invest, right? So last cycle, we saw lots of VC involvement, which is a good thing, but it is a bit of a double-edged sword. You need to be careful when you see lots of VCs involved, because they are generally given a large portion of tokens at a very, very cheap price. And most of them were under some sort of lock, right? So some were 1 year, some were 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. There was a whole bunch of different unlocks, some stair-stepped. So what you want to pay attention for if you're looking to invest in a token is when those unlocks start. I predict that next cycle it's probably going to start right when a lot of these unlocks start coming out. And when that happens, I have a feeling it's going to be a very hard time in the crypto world. So you want to pay attention to when these unlocks are and when a good time to buy those tokens might be. Now, if you're patient, you can time it so that these unlocks come out, a lot of these VCs dump their tokens, and you can scoop it up at a cheap price and get a token for a good game. Again, that's not to say that these games won't succeed. It's just a matter of timing so that you can get your best entry. So again, token unlocks are definitely something you're going to want to watch. Now, another piece of the space that we already know is huge is NFTs. I predict that NFTs are going to do pretty well, but I think the best way they're going to be used is integration into crypto gaming. I am huge on crypto gaming next cycle. I really think that it is going to be the next super cycle in the crypto space. So what else do we need to pay attention to? Well, let's look to see where these games are building and what they are using. So, as we know, Chainlink has a foothold on the Oracle space across the entire crypto ecosystem. They just got integrated into Solana. They're on just about every other chain imaginable, and they play a massive role. Anytime you need to import external data to your application or game or whatever it is, you need an Oracle to go and fetch that information for you. And Chainlink is eons ahead of just about every other team out there who's developing an Oracle. So, paying attention to teams like that right now that are on steep discounts might be a good place to keep your eyes out. Another thing we want to pay attention to is, where are these gaming projects building? Are they building on Ethereum? Are they building on Solana? Are they building on Avalanche? What things do these all L1s have to offer that could improve on what Ethereum offers and that could give them a niche in the gaming space? One project in particular comes to my mind, and that is Avalanche. Avalanche is going to be releasing and has already released their subnets, which are basically dedicated chains just for one project. So if you're building a game, there are tons and tons of transactions that'll happen, right? Anytime you pick up a gun, or anytime you open up a chest, or anytime you do anything with your character that could be switching what you have on you and so on and so forth, that is all a transaction that has to be logged to the chain. So if you're building on Ethereum and you're just using the Ethereum L1, you're probably going to have a game that is too expensive to play, right? No one can afford to pay $100 per transaction every time they play your game. That's a lot. You'd be spending way too much money on the game. So I don't think that Ethereum, at least the level 1 Ethereum, is going to be the place where these games build. I just simply think it's too expensive. At times it can be too slow. You want your game to be very smooth. What Avalanche offers is subnets. They can build their game on what is essentially their own chain that is secured by the Avalanche network, but also allows them the speed and the low cost to run these games. And the best part is they can sort of design the chains around their needs, so they don't have to necessarily use a chain that's already built and adapt to that chain. They develop the chains. This is going to be huge in the crypto gaming space, in my opinion. I think that this is going to be the way that Avalanche corners that market. And you're already seeing it now, because a lot of developers, when you look at game, or at least applications like G-Swap, and ShroomX, they're moving their projects to Avalanche. And the reason for that is it's just eons cheaper, and it's a modular chain. So again, they can adapt to their project and adapt the chain around what they want to build rather than building around the chain. So this is really big in my eyes, and AVAX is going to be another token that I watch very closely. They do have some VC involvement, but ultimately they have a cap supply, and a lot of good things that I have been seeing out of the Avalanche team. I really believe in that whole ecosystem. Really, the chain has proven itself time and time again. It has, gone through lots of waves of people coming in and trading on AVAX and lots of transactions, and it seems to handle it all extremely well. I don't believe, knock on wood, the Avalanche chain has gone down at all. You haven't had really any major issues that have come from Avalanche. I'm going to knock on wood one more time. So that is a space that I'm going to be watching. And it's as simple as just seeing what happened last cycle, where the growth vectors were at the end of the cycle. So at the end of the cycle, what was most people's focus? Because what happens is when the next cycle starts, the people who left during the bear market, or maybe they lost their money and they got frustrated and so they just walked away and are no longer paying attention, are going to start paying attention next cycle to the projects and the places they had their eyes at the end of this cycle. So I don't know if that makes sense or if I explained that very well, but basically people are going to go back to the knowledge they had and the way they were feeling towards the space last cycle when they return next cycle. So a lot of those focuses and things like that are going to go right to crypto gaming. They're going to go right to all L1s because that is where they saw value last cycle. And so it's easy to get caught in this mindset of you have to find the next big new thing. And while yes, finding the next big new thing can prove to be very lucrative, it's hard to do, and that is where it gets more into gambling. If you're looking for the surefire money, you definitely want to stay where you see the established teams that are building working, fantastic products. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. The more complication you add to it, the more you'll second guess yourself and start flip-flopping trades and trying to catch the new wave, which never typically ends very well. So anyways, guys, I wanted to give you some insight in this video because, again, everyone talks about buying when the market is down, but where do you look? What do you do? How do you find tokens that are down? So I'm going to continue to cover these projects that I'm keeping my eyes on. So if you enjoy this content, again, guys, hit that subscription button. I will see you next time.